Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Zelda Speedruns. We have a Link to the Past Randomizer Crosskeys tournament race for you. This is Brackets Round 1, Alaszun versus dazedcloud. And in the commentary booth with us is Amazing Ampharos and Dane8373. Say hello, guys, and take it away.
Well,
Hi, everyone.
okay, then. I think we have a pretty exciting match on our hands. This is going to be Alaszun versus dazedcloud, fighting for the right to race against wall kicks in the next round. This is a best-of-3 set, and Alaszun is up 1-0, so if Alaszun wins this match, then he will move on. If dazedcloud wins, we're going to have a Game 3 on our hands.
Yep, and I'm hoping that this Game 2 is like Game 1. We had a pretty close race between these two in their Game 1 set. It basically came down to just Alaszun getting to an inconveniently located spike cave for the fire rod before dazedcloud was able to, and that really changed the race. It was kind of a bit of a roller coaster. Daze looked to be a bit ahead, but then just never got that fire rod before Alaszun found his goat mode items. So I think they finished, or dazedcloud wasn't able to finish because that fire rod was just so bad, but it was definitely a race all the way up to the end.
Well, I gotta say, as a player, Spike Cave is definitely in my bottom 5 of checks, so doesn't sound like I would have fared well either. But it looks like we're off, and we're getting our favorite item from the treasure chest in Link's house, $20.
Yep, nothing too adventurous. We won't see any deviation based off that item from these two runners' normal routes. Looks like Alaszun's going to go straight for the standard sort of hula hand from Link's house. dazedcloud's going to go down and check some enemy drops here. Sees bombs from the regular, or that's that I can't. That was the regular card. Okay, which is nice to know. And we'll just do these 200s by Eastern Palace.
I think it's a good idea to get excited when you find 20 rupees, because statistically that means you'll be excited more often than if you get excited over any other item.
Yeah, you'll definitely be having a lot more fun playing this game if you enjoy those 20 rupees.
And I will say a lot of players don't actually go to these two entrances northwest to Lake Hylia particularly early, but dazedcloud is getting a huge payoff. Finds Thieves Town and the Moon Pearl. That could be a really... and a glove. So if Alaszun doesn't route this way particularly early, and most runners like clear all of CAC before coming over here, he could go through connectors, etc., just not get the benefit of this early exploration with the Pearl and the Glove.
Yeah, those are two really nice items to get early, because you get dropped off in some connector in the Dark World, and there's if something like that Death Mountain one, you really like to knock it out when you're there on West Death Mountain or any other inconvenient location. So Daze will be able to get those right away along with any glove lock locations. And yeah, I totally agree with you that it really depends. Like some runners check this like dazedcloud really early, maybe right after the Houlihan or even like dazedcloud did. But then if not, yeah, you can see runners go to Save and Quit to Sank, see where that is, and then it takes a while to get back here sometimes.
And there's also the well over at the Useless Fairy drop. Anyone who does a Houlihan start's going to see this right away, but also enjoy the full downside of it, which is you're going to orphan an item because you just don't have bombs. I'll say personally as a player, the main reason I don't Houlihan start, I mean, there's a couple I don't, but the biggest one is this specific scenario. Leaving behind a chest in the well like this, it hurts.
Yeah, I personally do like the Houlihan route, but the well hurts the most because of that one locked item. It also hurts when you find back escape here, because then it's like Sank. People who started in Sank just save like a minute on you, with the only loss for them being not knowing what's in the Witch's Hut.
I will also like to say, as a response to chat, yeah, the shield can help against the archer guy on the Hylia Bridge. The shield is also great against the spear thrower near the Swamp Palace entrance. I'm about out of places. The normal shield's helpful, but let's not forget Ganon's buddy by the Swamp Palace entrance, shall we?
The other big one is if you ever fake flipper over to Hobo, that one arrow guy that aggroes, the shield will block you and save you from dying in the fake flipper straight date.
Yeah, that's the same guy on the Hylia Bridge, just from a different direction.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And yeah, Alaszun did go to the Northwest Lake Hylia very early here. I don't know if that's something Alaszun normally does, or if he's just familiar with dazedcloud's playstyle and is removing a failure point. But either way, this is going to work out quite well for him, and it's going to give both of our runners glove pearl parity.
Yeah, and we saw that dazedcloud went through that desert connector and ended up through the desert right connector and is going to just use that quick access to the desert area to check out these areas. But yeah, I definitely think it's great that for the parity in this match that Alaszun decided to do that. I do see this route a decent amount where you do Houlihan and then you basically check all the drop packs with you can check most of the enemy drop packs and hopefully get some bombs if you do these early.
Man, imagine getting spit out of desert right with a glove and then finding a bomb-dropping rupee crab that you can only check because you have a glove.
Yeah, it's a glove just paying off.
And I also do generally believe that one of the best things you can find early is that a very useful thing to find early, not one of the best, is that connector to desert right. Because you rule out a connector, and it actually does conveniently let you check some entrances. You otherwise just have to kind of do a long walk to check.
Yeah, it's very nice to find that in the first half hour of the race. It's really annoying to find it after about an hour and a half, but yeah, for the reasons you mentioned, it's convenient for routing, and you just don't have to worry about, is Laser Bridge going to be a desert right today?
We have a vanilla sanctuary, which I don't think is too bad of a thing. Doesn't look like there was a ton of value in the back. There's some small chance that ether is going to be important.
Yeah, having the glove early makes the vanilla sank nice because then you just get the 3 items right away. It might also be nice for Alaszun to get that orphaned well item relatively quickly.
Looks like Alaszun is not going to jump down and instead is going to give us the third entrance to desert. It's a reasonable play. With the pearl and the glove, there's very few places this could drop him that would be particularly disappointing. The vanilla laser bridge exit would probably be the most annoying entrance he could find here.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the main things that hurt both these runners in the last raid actually was not checking one of the desert connectors. It was this one, in fact. Or no, it was Desert Right, sorry, which led to a bow on Bumper Cave. So a lot of times when you do one desert connector like that, this other one just gets left behind for a while. Granted, today, desert's in a nice place, but it can be quite annoying to get back to that one.
And in this case, we get dropped off in the Ice Rod Cave area, which is nice in its own way, just because you never really want to take this long walk down here.
Yep, and found another connector with that Quarreling Brothers, so we'll be able to kind of follow that even further.
Meanwhile, on dazedcloud's side, we're going to learn what's in our mystery 5th chest. Well, oh my, Alaszun's on the mountain.
Yeah, we got dropped off in that vanilla old man from the Quarreling Brothers over in the Ice Rod Cave area.
So in our mystery 5th chest, dazedcloud found a single green rupee. At first blush, it might seem like that's really good news for Alaszun. He just can leave that find forever. In reality, I think it's extremely likely that Alaszun is going to come back and check that at some point. So the time loss of opening it is baked in. It's a little good news for him just because he's not missing an item that's going to cost him time not having it elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. If there was like the mirror in there, you're definitely feeling bad if you like missed out on some checks when you were doing some fun connectors. Like here, you miss out on the hero entrance and the item up there. But yeah, definitely, I think that we'll see Alaszun take that from Sanctuary at some point, or maybe if he turns to the Mushroom. And we found the big key of Turtle Rock over in Tower of Hera up in that mountain, so that's a nice one to find that can get you over to Crystal Roller Room and get the big chest if you find that entrance.
It's also one of the big keys that's required to beat its dungeons, so you always feel like there's a minimum value to finding that just because it's really likely you had to eventually. In terms of things that are less likely to be required, but can be very nice to have early, dazedcloud's just gotten a spy on the boots in the Lumberjack Tree at Uncle Tunnel. I don't anticipate that's going to be very hard for Alaszun to find, but we're going to go just a little faster this seed than we do in some others.
And Alaszun's found the Old Man Cave. Using that red boomerang as a nice little guide to make his way through this dark cave. We'll be able to rescue the Old Man.
Yeah, I can't speak for anyone else on this, but I'm pretty strongly of the opinion if you don't have a sword, the best item to echolocate with is definitely a boomerang.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of the ones that's just, it's quick, it's infinite use, you can move while using it, because the hook shot's decent, but you have to stop in your tracks every time you use it. The hammer is just not that great, so definitely a big fan of the or the boomerang for locating.
And we find the bomb shop at the Hyrule Castle entrance. We get the knowledge that Skullwoods and Ice Palace are crystals. That's notable because both those dungeons are fairly easily clearable without big keys. So that is a little bit of a sign to lower requirements, but the seed is still young and there could still be a lot of issues ahead.
There's another big key up on Spectacle Rock, so definitely we'll want to come back here when we have the mirror for no other reason to get that big key. There's also
dazedcloud finds a dark room in Sank Bonk Rocks. I'm pretty sure that's the left side of the Death Mountain exit cave.
Yep, those were some pretty low to down bats. That the bats can be a telltale sign for that one. There's bats in the back of the Old Man Cave as well, but if you're familiar enough with them, you can locate which one it is based off that.
Man, I don't even have sound on. I was just watching the way his boomerang moved.
Oh, I just saw his boomerang kill something. So that dark cave may connect to the Spectacle Rock top, which is also a different dark cave, which is always a trip when there's more than one dark room on the top of Death Mountain.
At least for Alaszun's sake, he found the old man first of the two dark rooms, so we had no opportunity to get tripped up by that.
Also, in one of those really annoying West Death Mountain Dark World side entrances, there's Mimic Cave, so that's going to be an annoying check to get back to once the hammer shows up.
On the other hand, in terms of things that are not annoying, we have located the Uncle Tunnel at Lumberjack Tree. If you want a seed to be convenient, that's one of the things you like seeing the most, because it pretty well hard guarantees no Aga 1. There's obscure scenarios you can have to do Aga 1 anyway for Dark World access, but let's be honest, that almost never happens in Crosskeys.
Yeah, and the rare times when it does happen, it's often sequence breakable. Like, you'll see it, if it's very rare to have it like hard Dark World fully locked by Aga. But you can have sometimes where the East Dark World is locked by Aga. That's still pretty rare, but easily sequence broken. You can also have still have the sort of bomb locked by Aga, but that's even rarer than it is in standard.
And but yeah, in all honesty, if you can get the Super Bomb to Dark World at all, both these runners are going to know the sequence breaks, get that Super Bomb across the river.
Yeah, we've already seen the boots show up early, so you can set up a nice water walk to make it pretty straightforward. But yeah, the Uncle being in that is always part of the dream for the drop-downs. You always want Uncle at Lumberjack and then Useless Fairy at Ganon. That's the ideal two drop-downs. The other ones you can put wherever, but that's the two you want. It looks like both these runners have made their ways to Kakariko at around the same time, despite that they have done a great different checks prior to it, just by a few different key decisions leading to connectors and other things.
Yeah, really the main difference here is that dazedcloud has those boots. I don't think it's going to be too big of a deal. I expect Alaszun to get the boots relatively soon after he's done in CAC. The main thing that might slow him down is if he takes that Super Bunny Cave connector and that ends up just turning into a long Dark World journey. Yeah,
because sometimes you'll see that drop down over by the Hyrule Castle can get put off for a while if you get distracted, like you were mentioning. Something else we found that was pretty interesting is that Bomb Hut is the Turtle Rock right entrance, which Alaszun has the big key, so he can get 2 plus the Chain Chomp item in there, but no way to get across there in logic, so we're not going to worry about doing a bomb jump right now.
I think the bigger thing holding him back is he cannot bomb jump right now because his bomb counter is at 0.
Yep, that's another good point. He actually got a pretty nice 50-50 bomb to even get into that entrance.
He's sure going to like it when he finds Blind's Basement, though, because he'll get 3 bombs, and he'll also get this just minor little progression item known as the Mirror.
Yeah, so early glove, early mirror, early moon pearl. That's a pretty nice set of early items for this Crosskeys.
Yeah, give us hammer or mitts, and we suddenly can just navigate the world with remarkable ease. And we've also seen the old man save and quit is in Cax, so your save and quits are very powerful this seed.
Yeah, you can be basically anywhere in the overworld that you need to get to pretty quickly in the light world. So it's just a pretty nice seed for mobility. Just throw the flute and, like you mentioned, the hammer or the mitts, and you're going to be going really fast through the overworld. The seed can still be mean in other ways, but it's nice to have those items early.
Yeah, I always like to say Randomizer seed's difficulty isn't dictated by the first couple items, but the last couple. But
yeah,
that being said, these aggressive starts can be pretty helpful.
They at least feel better as you're going through them, because you're not going to leave as many one-offs behind, and you'll just feel like you're making more progress. And so we have seen, for drop-downs, we've seen the Well, we've seen the Thief, we've seen Lumberjack and Uncle, and Back Escape. So we've got Magic Bat, Use Fair. I don't know if we've seen the Kakariko Well vanilla drop-down yet, but we're missing that one, the Forest, and Ganon. So we still haven't seen Ganon. He could still be in his vanilla location, but he could just be in the Forest or in the Kakariko Well.
I think we've seen the Kakariko Well. Oh yeah, we've seen the Forest. dazedcloud walked through it, and that is where Ganon is. So
that's very nice.
It's either Useless Fairy or Magic Bat in the Pyramid. I keep careful track of which one's which when I'm playing, but when I'm calming, I'm not always as careful about that point.
Okay, and our tracker pointing out that the Bat is in Cackwell, so we do indeed have the ideal set of drop-downs with Uncle at Lumberjack and Useless Fairy at Ganon.
Yeah, we didn't get Magic Bat in my personal favorite, or Ganon in my personal favorite place for him, which is the Magic Bat drop down, but we got the next best thing.
Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure what Ganon's goal is when he's already in the light world, because that's kind of like his whole goal in the main game. So when he's in the light world, he's already won.
I mean, he has Aghanim in the light world in the original game. Ganon's goals are murky in many ways.
All right, looks like Alaszun's heading over to do that bomb jump over here for this big jump. There's a couple of bomb jumps you can do in here. There's one that's sort of like the Spectacle Rock bomb jump, where it actually is kind of more like Hammer Jump, where you use that railing to get a little bit further. It looks like if you set up really far to the left, okay, he's moving himself. You kind of have to be set up like in the middle of those tiles to get across to the big chest.
Yeah, this bomb jump across isn't necessarily super hard. It's just a little weird if you don't have a feel for it.
Yeah, because your intuition, you're thinking, okay, this is a 3-tile bomb jump. You probably want to be as close to the edge as possible, but you actually are a little bit farther from the edge than you would be for that standard like rail clip one where you go to the left entrance.
Oh man, that's exciting. We got 20 more rupees by going back to Crystal Roller Room.
The nice part about that is if you get Crystal Roller going that way, sometimes you have seeds where Crystal Roller is required and you don't get the big key. And like you clear out Laser Bridge and getting later time get the Cane and the Lamp, and that's just such an annoying location to go back to. So I'm always okay with getting that Crystal Roller chest early.
Meanwhile, dazedcloud goes through that Super Bunny connector we were looking at earlier, finds his way to the Vanilla Laser Bridge entrance with a mirror in hand. So this is actually going to be very convenient. Let him just clear out the Eastern Mountain in kind of one fell swoop. Starting by finding Agha's Cave here. Just some blue mails, so normally you'd kind of gripe about early blue mail because it slows down Death Warps, but we have a mirror, we don't care. And Alaszun gets super out of logic mitts.
Yep, 4 Turtle Rock Small Keys locking those mitts. So those would be nice to get into the Dark World of Village of Outcasts quicker, but like mitts and Crosskeys can be they're sometimes not required for anything. So I don't know if you can glean much from the seed knowing that there's 4 Turtle Rock Smalls locking that mitts, but it's definitely nice to get them early.
Yeah, having mitts at this point, you look at it as not really logically relevant necessarily, but it's just going to make everything more efficient for you, which in some ways you value more than the other side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely happy to find those.
On East Death Mountain, we found a Paradox Cave entrance. dazedcloud is doing exactly what I would do with that information, checking the rest of the available entrances on the Eastern Mountain, and probably going to go right back.
Yeah, because then you can check the one-way on the Paradox bottom, though they have the mirror, so it's not a one-way, actually. But finding an even longer connector over here with the Hyrule Castle connector.
Looks like we're about to get a bomb escape from dazedcloud. It's a reasonable enough decision. You're probably not feeling super thrilled about returning to the castle in the future. And for all he knows, there's a really important item in this in-logic chest right here.
Yep, showing off a pretty cool setup there where you place the bomb to the right, then one bomb on the chest, and then pick up the bomb you place to the right and chuck it at the guard, and it gets a pretty quick kill like that.
Yeah, one of the various standard tournaments required doing escape with a variety of items every seed. It was like 1 out of 7 you had to do this bomb escape. It's pretty much just a tell for who played in that tournament, who has learned that setup, and who hasn't.
So if you do uncle routing and escape, and you like to do front of escape with tree poles, then that also can come up.
So Alaszun goes back for his green rupee, claiming that time lost, but probably relieved that it wasn't actually important. While dazedcloud finds an Ice Palace big key. Probably not required to beat the seed, but it does open up a chest that's really easy to orphan in the depths of Ice Palace, so that's always a nice item to see.
Yeah, and it can also be useful logically, especially with Red Ice Palace being a red crystal, because then you kind of know when the seed is expecting to beat Ice Palace. This one is actually not in logic yet because it's locked by that Hyrule Castle small.
And yeah, Alaszun is not routing toward the boots at all. I don't think that's actually that big of a deal. I'm on team boots aren't as big of a time saver as people think they are, but definitely if he ends up in the Dark World next to those Dark World Bonk Rocks, that could create some long backtracks.
Yeah, like if dazedcloud got the boots at like 12, 13 minutes. If Alaszun gets the boots at 30 minutes, it's not going to be huge, but if it comes to hour and 20, then the time save starts to become real. There's a bow over at Paradox and Powder, so some pretty nice finds there.
Yeah, bow doesn't really open a lot in itself, but the couple places you need it, it can be problematic not to have it.
Yeah, not even having a potion, so if you don't want to have to do Mimic Clip, it's nice to get that before you find Pod. Also, dazedcloud just found the small key to Thieves Town, which is another thing that's nice to find, because very frequently you go into Thieves Town without that and just clear it and hope that you don't get wrecked by the big chest.
We also see that Paradox Cave is trying to shake the seed up a bit as we find a Quake Medallion.
And we'll get to see the Paradox Cave shop here, which is definitely a nice call when you're on just the one bomb. So you can trade in one bomb for 10 bombs at the cost of 50 rupees.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing is dazedcloud can check this lower door if he wants to and still be able to get back later. I actually kind of don't know why he didn't just walk out the lower door. You have a mirror, you can delete that block later.
Yeah, it's interesting. He has the Hyrule Castle connectors too, so we'll probably want to try to just check all of those, hopefully not get locked out. Looks like one of those Hyrule Castle connectors goes to Dark Death Mountain on the east side.
So this is going to get Alaszun most of the same stuff that dazedcloud has found on the Eastern Mountain. The only thing that Alaszun's not going to be able to find is that Agana's cave at the Fairy Ascension top. So he's not going to find the blue mail. Somehow I think he'll be okay without it.
Well, he might get that because we just saw Paradox top is vanilla, so he can just drop down to it. Or sorry, maybe that was Paradox bottom that was up there. I just see that dazedcloud got up there through a connector.
Oh, I guess he did find the same connector. All these silly custom sprites, I can't tell what mail people are wearing.
Yeah, it's a good thing that ZSR added the mail for trackers because if you're, it's kind of silly to have it if you're using the standard Link sprite because then it's just obvious. You just look at your screen if they have it. Like, we don't need to track half magic. You can tell if they have it. But yeah, like I can't tell what mail Alaszun sprite has.
Also interesting, dazedcloud is not going for the Dark Cross item. I honestly feel like that's a pretty easy check to make with boots.
Yeah, agreed. With the boots, you can just bonk off that chest of the torch in the place where the chest actually is, and it's pretty easy to get to. If you only have Dark World Hyrule Castle with no sword, I don't think it's a good idea. But with the Light World Hyrule Castle, it's pretty easy to damage boost past the snakes and the rats.
And it's also just a technique to be aware of in general, that if you're having trouble figuring out where you are in a dark room with boots, you can just tap A a bunch, and the dust clouds from the boots will show you where you are. So dazedcloud's using his glove to check an entrance that in this seed was never going to be too much of a problem. But in a lot of seeds can be really inconvenient. That Death Mountain entrance cave ended up just being a compass for his trouble.
Yeah, we're going to see a nice combo of Splash Deletion and usage of this portal here to get over to the Ice Rod Cave area. We already saw that over on Alaszun's side, but that's definitely a nice usage of that portal, especially because like there was nothing left over there to check for dazedcloud.
Especially nice for dazedcloud in this situation, which he's already come out of Mini Moldorm Cave as a connector, so this really would have otherwise been a long walk with nothing on the way.
Yeah, and with he's shown that he can do the Ancilla Splash Deletion glitch, so you don't need to worry about setting up a fake flipper if you want to go to the in-logic Zora check at some point. You can just go over to those places to south of Eastern and set up a Splash Deletion.
I will throw out there that it's very nice for Alaszun in a way. There's a big key on Spectacle Rock because he's otherwise really orphaned the Hera entrance.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because you don't really want to leave those big keys up there too long. Like, that's the big key of Eastern. That's the difference between you single dip full clearing Eastern when you find it versus having to come back to it.
So those mitts in the middle of Turtle Rock are increasingly suspicious to me as maybe actually logically important because we've already found 3 Turtle Rock small keys.
Yeah, that's true. It could come into logic, and the mitts, they're seeds where they're really useless, but they actually come up a decent amount just because they're oftentimes your mire area access.
Yeah, though the flute still hasn't shown itself. The flute can be problematic to locate.
Yeah, because it really just comes... The flute is even worse than the mitts, where it's either your mire access or sometimes rarely your mountain access or otherwise completely useless. Well, I guess no. There's also the big bomb that comes into play sometimes.
Yeah, though in this seed, given where the super bomb is, we know that the flute won't be required to return it.
Yeah, absolutely. With the mirror, this would actually be one of the best super bomb spots. You just mirror when you're at the pyramid, go right into that Hyrule Castle entrance, and walk out with the bomb.
I've been told that of the things that are in Logic and Randomizer, that sequence of leaving a mirror portal after you go to the pyramid, then carrying the bomb back to your portal is one of the trickiest things.
Oh, absolutely. In this case, it's not because it's incredibly obvious. It's literally right there. But there are some locations where it's not at all obvious that that's a thing that you can do.
Looks like Alaszun is going to go for Dark Cross. So if this is an important item, then dazedcloud has kind of orphaned it. But dazedcloud is going to be able to check out the Hera entrance, this big key on the way. Big key's only the Swamp Palace big key. The good news is you won't be orphaning Swamp Palace big chest. The bad news is that is literally the only implication of that.
Yep, no nice logical implications like the Tower of Hera big key or the Ice Palace big key, which are often similarly thought of as fetch quest big keys. But the Skullwoods and Swamp Palace, they're just fetch quests. And yeah, so to your point about this Dark Cross chest, like the Hyrule Castle connectors aren't even in that great of locations, so it's not even going to be easy to get back to from another point.
I did not see what Alaszun got out of that chest.
I didn't catch it either. It looks like flippers.
That is a consequential item. So
yeah.
You can do all sorts of shenanigans not to need flippers on the overworld, but having actual flippers is faster. And the more important thing is there's all this water in Swamp Palace, and your trickery will not help you get past it.
Yep, so if Swamp is a pendant, you can actually skip it fairly often in Crosskeys because a lot of the other flipper lock stuff is just, you can sequence break it too, like you're mentioning, but it's not incredibly likely that Swamp is a pendant, so we'll see.
Even if Swamp is a pendant, the odds that one of its 10 chests have some important key or progression item are not really that low.
Yeah, you just have to kind of hope it's like a pod small that you don't actually need, or a Skullwood small that you don't actually need. It's very rarely just truly empty.
I have heard some people claim that there's always a sword in Swamp Palace.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Looks like dazedcloud's going through that old man rescue sequence, and Alaszun's going to finish up the forest. So maybe after he does this forest, he might be inclined to go get those boots at the drop down, since he'll know it's an item for sure. Well, I guess no, because we have Usel's Berry, sorry, so it wouldn't be an item for sure.
I will say, in my experience, there are two kinds of seeds in which there's not a sword in Swamp. There are the seeds in which you're in sword go mode. Where is a sword? Oh my. Swamp Palace, finally, I'll get a sword here. Nope, no sword there. And then also, please give me a sword so I don't have to do Swordless Argus. Nope, not gonna happen.
Yeah, and so we found actually on dazedcloud's side our first connector to the Dark World, aside from that one on the Laser Bridge entrance. So this will be our in-logic Dark World access. Alaszun can get to the Dark World out of logic with that out-of-logic mitts.
We found an Ice Palace in the King's Tomb entrance. Always good to know where Ice Palace is, but probably not something we're going to be dealing with for a while. We literally can't get in right now, and even later when we have the tools, it's just not going to be a place that runners would be eager to return to, because that's an out-of-the-way entrance.
Yeah, we know that it's a crystal, so we'll need to find it. I guess, so if Alaszun doesn't get those boots when he finds that connector, though, it might be a while till he gets to that, because we already have seen Graveyard Ledge, that's the Hyrule Castle connector, and there's just nothing else in that area.
Yeah, Alaszun really needs to prioritize going to the Uncle Tunnel soon, or he could end up with a situation where the boots are findable in the first 5 minutes and he gets them an hour and a half into the seed.
Yeah, and I'm actually, so the connector to get to the Dark World that dazedcloud took is up here, if I recall correctly, so he might just be figuring, I'm going to get that big key and follow that connector, but I guess that's what's not what happened. That's not what's happening here.
So shout-outs to the height differences in A Link to the Past, where dazedcloud shot an arrow directly through the Murderdactyl, but because it flew south of the cliff edge, it was considered at a different elevation and the arrow didn't hit it.
Yeah, that bird has definitely claimed many a life, as we saw by dazedcloud there. That sign is generally the best approach, I think, if you don't have the hook shot to get rid of it.
So Thieves Town is our green pendant. We already have the small key, and it's a very accessible dungeon. So definitely something to keep in mind. At least it'll be really fast to turn in the green pendant.
Yeah, Thieves Town and Sajrala are both just one screen transition from Link's House each.
Looks like chat's really reflecting on the various excellent work that particular Murderdactyl does in service of Ganon. It is fair to say that Murderdactyl earns his pay.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever peanuts Ganon's been feeding the Murderdactyls, he should probably start giving those to those bluebirds in the light world as well.
Yeah, I still, for my money, don't think that particular bird in this game is quite as effective as the bird guarding the ladder on top of the lab in Ocarina of Time, but it's still a pretty effective bird.
And we see Alaszun has made his way up to Skullwoods, which is an interesting location right now because we know that's in logic via the connector, and there's always just a lot of kind of freestanding items in Skullwoods you can get to. And definitely, we're seeing the mitts already, I think, paying off for Alaszun because, like, dazedcloud wants to get back to the Dark World. He has to go through the connector in the Quarreling Brothers to get to the mountain to get back to the ferry connector to get here. So that's a bit of a trek.
There's a pod big key in front of Skull. That's a nice item to have when you have an early bow. It's very likely we're going to get a large, efficient clear of Palace of Darkness when we finally locate it.
Yeah, I already got 2 keys now, so you can get all the way to the back, not in logic, but just you can do it. And with the big key in the bow, you can just get most of the items in your first pass. So we didn't get the terrible layout of Skullwoods today, so I'm not going to have to do a save and quit to get out.
That's actually kind of bad news for Alaszun in a way, because he has such easy Dark World access. It would actually make this clear more efficient for him if we did have the Trolley Skullwoods layout.
Yeah, because sometimes runners will just elect to not do that, especially if you don't have the Fire Rod when it's the bad layout, whereas Alaszun with the Mountain Cave save and quit being in CAC and having the mitts, it's really not that big of a deal to save and quit. dazedcloud making his way. We're going to see he'll get that same pod. Big key was the main score, and also the pod small is not a small thing either. Well, it's a small key, but it's not a small in terms of importance.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. There are more pod keys than keys for any other dungeon, but there's still somehow some of the relatively better keys to find.
Yeah, because it's like every key is essentially, like the first 2, you can get a lot of items, and then every key after that is just 1 item extra per key.
It's also worth observing that there's only a piece of heart on the Bumper Cave ledge, and we've already come out of the Foothills Cave as a connector, so we know we never need to find the connector to that ledge.
Yeah, that's a good sign, because sometimes you get down to like 2 entrances left, and you have to follow some annoying connector. They've already followed most of the long connectors already, though, but yeah, it's nice to not have to worry about that one.
To answer the question from chat, I believe it is faster to get Wall Mastered versus using the mirror, but not if you have to wait for the Wall Master, so it just has to time out conveniently.
And with this red boomerang is actually being pretty helpful on these runners not having great weapons. Definitely been pretty useful for both these runners. There's Sick Kid. We've seen one bottle on Lake Hylia Island. If they were incredibly desperate to do Sick Kid, they could set up a water walk near that, but definitely not going to see that.
Yeah, that would be pretty poor judgment, I think. It's something you might consider doing if you were convinced your opponent was drastically better than you and you needed something crazy to happen to win, but I don't think that's the world we're in a race like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so if I was down there and found Ice Rod Cave in that house outside of Pod, I might water walk to get that boat, because then it's free. But you're not going to go out of your way to do it.
Yeah, I'm thinking like you find a connector to the shopping mall and there's no other connectors leading out of there, but there is like the Ice Rod or Good Bee Cave. Yeah, sure, why not?
All right, so Alaszun's found a first sword over there in Mini Moldorm Cave, also finding the Big Key of Misery Mire, which is another one, and the flute, so we can get to the Mire area as well as into the Mire dungeon deeper, though I guess we can't still beat that without the cane.
And dazedcloud is going to be following suit very quickly, somewhat more quickly, because he had a very efficient bow kill of those 4 Mini Moldorms. They can be pretty hard to hit with arrows. Arrows do not fly quickly in this game.
Yeah, and they're not it feels like they're harder to hit with. They just don't have as wide as a hitbox as the fire rod and stuff, but mainly because of the splash damage and the projectile speed.
And yeah, with this flute, the mitts are a lot more useful to Alaszun, but let's keep in mind that with what we found so far, the mitts are still out of logic. We would not only need the 4th Turtle Rock small key, which is the point we've been discussing, but we also have only found the big chest entrance of Turtle Rock, so we would need the Cane of Samaria or Hookshot, or to find a different Turtle Rock door.
Yeah, I can't recall if Alaszun walked out of that laser eye entrance. He might have, but I didn't see where it was.
Yeah, I think he checked it as a connector. I don't think we've walked into it otherwise. Maybe that connector is just accessible somewhere. It's believable enough.
So our tracker saying that it is in the Desert Ferry entrance, so you can get to it. But yeah, still need the Turtle Rock Smalls. But Alaszun's going to come over here anyway. It makes a lot of sense because it's a pretty quick set of checks, and it's not like you're not going to check them at some point, and it's not going to get particularly better at any point either. Like maybe you'll find something you have to come back to, but it definitely makes sense to check this even if it's not in logic.
It also just kind of makes sense because what's your line of thinking really going to be? I want more Turtle Rock small keys. Like, do you really?
And we see actually an interesting Misery Mire that's close to its normal area. And then there's Spike Cave, always or Spiral Cave, always an annoying connector. So with that Mire being where it is, though, you can set up the spooky action glitch for free, just the normal way you would.
Yeah, dazedcloud nearly walking right out of Hookshot Cave. Then he remembers that even if you can't hover, you can bonk over to this one chest, and it has an easily measurable amount of value in it. Oh my word. So that's kind of a big deal situation. Spiral Cave exits at Hera, which both runners have seen, and it's right next to a dungeon entrance, and it's in a place you naturally would have a bunch more work to do in Mire as soon as you find it. But Spiral Cave has the hammer in it, which is probably the single most relevant progression item we hadn't seen yet from either runner. So it could be an issue for dazedcloud to find that hammer. If for nothing else, he first has to find those mitts. And then he has to do more work after that.
Yeah, definitely. I guess it really depends what else is in Misery Mire, because maybe you don't want to dip Mire immediately. But if there's some other connector over in the Mire area that we haven't seen yet, then you might get drawn away from the Spiral Cave entrance. And dazedcloud also just picked up his 4th Turtle Rock Small, so yeah, I think you're right about the that looking pretty likely logically to be required.
It's interesting that dazedcloud is the one with all the Turtle Rock small keys when Alaszun is the one who actually has the follow-up for that. Okay, Palace of Darkness, and we have some big decisions from Alaszun here. He can just go right and kill the boss.
Yeah, and we don't know whether or not Palace of Darkness is a crystal or pendant at this point.
Well, there's an Ice Rod, which is like a second big key to Turtle Rock.
And it looks like Alaszun's going to nope out on Palace of Darkness, at least for now. Maybe wants to check these first. May not want to go into it right now with it being not in logic.
It makes a lot of sense to me to finish clearing the mire area, because if there's another pod small key easily accessible nearby, the big problem he has is with Alaszun's key count, he has 3 choices. He can go to the boss and only check the front, leaving the entire back behind. He can go to the back, leaving the boss behind, potentially expanding his go mode, or he can make several loops through the right side, which is very slow. Those all have pretty substantial downsides, and if he just had another pod small key, decisions get way easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And also found not only the back of Skull Woods entrance and the mire entrance, which we could open because it was Quake, there's also a Master Sword in that chest under the bridge, which will be nice for finishing on bosses a little bit quicker. And yeah, those mitts are looking really required because there's 3 dungeons over here. It's unlikely they're all pendants, and we haven't found a connector, but as I say that, that looks a lot like a connector to the mire area.
That could, and in fact likely is, or could be and likely is, the front of Old Man.
I think Alaszun walked out of that earlier.
By front of Old Man, I mean the cave that's the other side of the cave you grab the Old Man out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. That might be it.
In terms of useful connectors, dazedcloud has found his way to the Mimic Cave ledge. That's all around nice. It's the main place we hadn't seen that you really absolutely need a connector for.
Yeah, we haven't seen the bumper top, but as you mentioned earlier, that's not going to be relevant this seed. It's nice to know because sometimes you can just process of elimination where a connector is going to go. But yeah, that one was the main one that's going to actually have stuff. We found some items, but nothing actually useful.
Yeah, Alaszun's just opening the front door of Pod, which is a pretty understandable decision. Avoiding opening that door can be very slow. I wouldn't be very surprised if Alaszun is just going to skip the back entirely for now. Just clear out the front. This is a very natural way to route it. It'll go straight to the boss.
Yeah, and the way the pod works, you don't have to worry about the back items coming into logic until you have 4 pod small. So it's unlikely you're just going to get some mother load back there without finding pod smalls along the way.
Yeah, and even once you get back there, only 3 of the chests in the back are actually in logic with 4. The other 4 chests require all 6. So if pod smalls are going to be a big problem in a seed, there's likely a lot of poor items back there. Not that it's unheard of at all for there to be some last item logically in the seed's progression big key in the Dark Maze.
Yeah, Key Sanity has a way. We've got a lot of logic-defying keys, especially when you have a required Agassiz, which we don't have today, but those come up.
Ooh, big key to Ganon's Tower is a fun one when you already have a bow in your inventory, isn't it?
Yeah, not that happy to see that, because like those 2 chests that require 0 keys in the climb, those are nightmare-inducing because you find GT and okay, they're on the menu, but I don't want to do them at all, especially without a hookshot.
Yeah, we still don't have a fire source, so we wouldn't be able to climb yet, but there's 2 options for that. Surely we'll find one somewhere.
It looks like dazedcloud is going to go here, and it makes all the sense in the world because he already has all 4 Turtle Rock Small, so this is just in logic to him.
Now, what makes less sense to me, why is dazedcloud killing the Pokey when he has all 4 Turtle Rock Small keys?
Yeah, you don't ever need that, because even if you have a weird seed where you have to walk out from the front, as long as you don't unlock the Chain Chomp room going backwards, then you're not going to need that key. definitely good for Daze to get those mids. He hasn't lost any time with Alaszun getting them earlier, at least only a little bit, having, I guess, to get to the Dark World a little bit slower. So it doesn't really matter that he got these a little bit later, but he could have put them off for a while. So it's good that fourth Turtle Rock Small was definitely helpful, because then you never will skip that of a chest if you have all the smalls.
And yeah, I'm looking at our current situation. I feel like dazedcloud has been a little more thorough than Alaszun in clearing the early parts of the world, but Alaszun has probably pushed a little better ahead forward into logic. And of course, Alaszun still has those flippers that dazedcloud effectively orphaned in Dark Cross.
Yeah, those flippers, they can be the whole story to Seed, because that's just a terrible location to get back to. I'm trying to think, okay, when does Dazed go back there? And the answer to me is if he gets the connector to the top of the mountain. That would make a lot of sense, because he's already cleared out the whole Light Death Mountain.
Yeah, we have dueling pods showing up here, while we also got a map check from dazedcloud. Eastern and Hera are crystals, and Desert is a pendant. All mostly good news from my perspective.
Yeah, we haven't found back of Desert, and to me, like, those dungeons, like, when you already have the bow, at least, it's just, like, which big key are you going to end up looking for? Hera being a crystal is definitely good, though, because you can just skip that one.
You say that as though the hook shot isn't in Hera Big Chest.
Yeah, that does happen. That does come up. And we see that Pod is also a pendant, and Helmasaur is holding a Misery or Skullwood small key, so nothing great behind that boss there.
Hey, that is logically required to beat the seed.
Yeah, doesn't mean you have to be happy to see it, though.
And yeah, it is a good point raised by chat that the flippers are now confirmed, though we could have suspected anyway, to be hard required to beat the seed.
Yep, because we have found 2 pendants via map checks and Sahasrara, and then we just found the 3rd pendant. So Swamp is, from our perspective, guaranteed to be a crystal.
And it kind of looks to me like dazedcloud might be planning to... Well, dazedcloud doesn't have the hammer, so in his mind, there's no reason not to go to the back here. So we're going to get some interesting divergence here. Given that we know Pod is a pendant, and it did not drop an item either runner is going to particularly need, it's pretty likely this works out better for dazedcloud than it worked out for Alaszun.
Yeah, for sure. As long as the bag isn't just completely empty.
Even if the back is completely empty, you have to consider that if dazedcloud finds a pod map and learns Helmasaur King is a pendant, he's not going to go back there until it's near our last location. And we know now that's probably a good call, unless it's a ped seed, but I mean, it's probably not, right?
Yeah, great point, because dazedcloud, he's not going to get pulled. He's already done most of the value in pod here. We also did find a first bottle in pod, so that's a fetch quest there. We've got Sick Kid up in the Dark Fortune Teller by Village of Outcasts.
So that discussion we had earlier about the ways you can fake Clipper to the bottle on the island, I don't think that's going to come up.
Nope, I don't think their runners are going to want a second bottle. And we'll see dazedcloud pulls a piece of a heart out of the dark maze so far. Nothing too good. See what this... I don't know if we saw the shovel game. I think dazedcloud did do it, but it was nothing.
Yeah, you would be amazed how quickly I'm able to forget what we find in places when the items we find aren't important.
Yeah, there's just 2 types of items. There's the good ones and the bad ones, really.
Of note, dazedcloud can go into Misery Mire here and has the big key and all 3 small keys, but no fire source. So you really don't want to go in because you get a fire source, you can get 2 more checks, or you get the Cane of Samaria, you can beat it. It's just kind of agonizing.
Yeah, and we'll see what dazedcloud elects to do with the Spiral Cave. It looks like he was thinking about not doing it, but he's going to end up going in, and this is going to be the right decision for him for sure.
Meanwhile, Alaszun is just dealing with the Smith right now. I think this is a reasonable call. You're going to want to check Hammer Pegs in Village of Outcast while you're here, so you might as well just route things together to pick up the purple chest.
Oh yeah, and can turn in the mushroom on the way as well, because that's the library has the witch hut today. And yeah, so I think dazedcloud, not only having the boots will make, obviously he has the ability to go into Mire, but I think from his perspective, Mire is going to be a better play too, because he's, like you said, he's been a little bit more thorough and doesn't have as much else to do. And there's the fire out of the Spike Cave for the second time this series. That's crazy.
So, we are a Kana Samaria away from being able to kill Trinex. That's worth keeping in mind.
Yeah, and that Fire Rod's also the first fire source, which gives them Ice Palace access. It gives them the ability to use Skullwoods. It gives them more checks in Mire. So that's a really nice find.
That is not just Ice Palace access. That is Ice Palace full clear is what that is.
That's true, yeah. And so dazedcloud knows where Ice Palace is because he has the boots, but Alaszun still hasn't gone to the Lumberjack at the Uncle drop down to get the boots to be able to check that. And we see free blue potions at that Waterfall Ferry, which is nice for dazedcloud having that bottle there.
I will like to say it's easy to criticize Alaszun like he's messing up not getting the boots for all this time, but I do think it's important to remember the perspective of runners only knowing what they know and not what their opponent knows. In Alaszun's mind, that drop is a 50-50 between being one item in an out-of-the-way entrance or nothing. It could be useless fairy in his mind.
No, it absolutely makes a ton of sense to not do it. Especially, the other reason why is because he's going to do that entrance. He's just going to do it when he does the pyramid, because he has the mirror, he has Dark World access. You just go up there with you do it when you do the pyramid.
Yeah, and then you just kind of groan a little because you could have had those boots much earlier, but I don't think it's going to prove to be that bad for Alaszun because he has mitts, so that'll make checking King's Tomb relatively easy, especially with the Sank save and quit being where it is. He has Hammer, he has Glove, Pearl. He can get to all the Bonk Rocks quickly.
And this Mire play, I think, would be kind of there could be a big advantage for having the boots early, though, if there's something nice, especially the hook shot being in here.
Of course, the scary part about this is there is something nice in Mire, but it's fire locked. That could be a big advantage for Alaszun.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how much this seed kind of mirrors their game one, because in the game one, dazedcloud got the boots significantly earlier than Alaszun. Not quite this bad, it was only like 20 minutes. And the fire out was in Spike Cave, and dazedcloud dipped Mire without fire source, so interesting to see some callbacks in game two.
Hey, a pod small key. I bet Alaszun is not too sad to see that.
And there's the hook shot in Mire, so the boots are hard required to get into Misery Mire today.
And therefore, in general, because not only is Mire a crystal, but so is Swamp Palace.
So yeah, definitely dazedcloud's got to be feeling good about coming in here for that hook shot. But really, so the main thing that dazedcloud is going to have to get to at some point, like we mentioned it before, you just got to get those slippers out of the Dark Cross area. And you got to wonder, we haven't still even seen the lamp at this point, so it's not even in logic to do yet, but it's just such an annoying location to get back to.
So yeah, that's to me kind of the bigger deal in terms of missing items is Yeah, the boots, obvious. They save time in a very obvious way, whereas the other items don't necessarily. But the boots are in a location that inevitably Alaszun is going to be routed into them. The flippers and the fire rod, on the other hand, those could be just huge sticking points for dazedcloud.
Yeah, I didn't even see where that spike cave was, or I don't even know like how. Okay, they have the cave because like he doesn't have any. They have the cave and half magic. He has no bottles or cane.
Yeah, it is actually in logic to clear spike cave with what he has.
Yeah.
Cape plus half magic plus hammer plus glove is sufficient.
Did you catch where that spike cave entrance was?
According to our tracker top file, it is at the tavern.
Oh wow, so they've already seen it. We'll see if dazedcloud goes in there right now because he's right there.
dazedcloud is only on half a bar of magic, so that might.
He has a blue potion and a green potion though. Yeah, dazedcloud will definitely get a kick out of this fire rod being in spike cave again after not getting it earlier, but it definitely is going to feel bad having not gotten it before Meyer.
It'll feel a little bad, but given the thing that's going to feel better about it is the fact that he almost didn't check it and decided to do it. Because when that happens, you just have the thought in your mind of, oh my word, what if I'd made the other call?
And then you gotta love that spin speed setup to get out of Spike Cave and Crosskeys. That's very useful if you have the boots. Though not particularly as useful as normal here because of the Spike Cave and Save and Quit locations.
And yeah, I suspect exactly what you said about Alaszun's route is going to come true shortly. It looks like he's just sort of naturally routing toward the pyramid, and that's probably going to lead him directly to the boots, which he's going to feel really bad about, but it'll be okay, probably.
Yeah, it's annoying because, like you said, it's not that likely that there's something good there. There's one entrance, which you know is the bomb shop, and then there's one drop down, which drop downs, they're often very valuable depending on what you found, but we've already found all the good ones, and there's just lumberjack and useless fairy left, so it's not even guaranteed to be an item.
Yeah, this looks like the sort of classic routing idea where Alaszun's going to take care of the shopping mall, use the Dark World swim portal, do catfish, and just kind of hook south toward the pyramid, and then finish with the pod area. Though with flute, hammer, and glove, the pod area is rather trivial to route in whenever he's so inclined.
Yeah, it's really the sort of standard Dark World loop you'll see in Crosskeys, especially if you come here with no easy Dark World access. You just want to clear as much as you can. And we'll get to see these hookshot cave items over from dazedcloud. I'm also interested to see where this hookshot connector is, because if this takes dazedcloud to the top of the mountain, I think that's really the best chance for him to ever get back to Dark Cross. But he doesn't have the lamp yet, so he might not want to.
At this point with a sword, like, I don't know, avoiding Dark Cross at that point, I don't believe there's any way dazedcloud's actually that wimpy, but he's just not in the area as it worked out, so he's not going to do it.
Yeah, maybe we already saw that hookshot cave other side, because it looks like dazedcloud's not interested in following it, or maybe he wants to pick up the smith first, I'm not sure.
dazedcloud does get a somewhat convenient set of silver arrows. Those save a little more time than you usually would think they do, just because we have them before every boss fight. So you can just add the time they save on every boss together, and that's how much they're going to save this seed.
Yeah, for sure. You get to do Vitreous and Armos and Landmolas and all those bosses with the silvers, which saves a varying but significant for something like Vitreous amount of time. And Alaszun's made his way over to the pyramid. We'll get our first look at this location. Nothing of note first. Well, Tempered Sword and Chicken Hut is nice on that pyramid. Not required, but definitely another one of those nice to have, especially like we were mentioning earlier, none of the bosses are down yet, so it'll help take some of those down. But at this point, to me, it's looking like these runners are going to have to start going into a dungeon like Ice Palace at this point, which Alaszun doesn't know about yet, but we checked most of the entrances in the game. They don't seem to be anything particularly interesting. We need that Cane of Samaria to be able to clear out Mire and Turtle Rock, but there's just not that much in connectors right now. Or connectors and entrances, I mean. Though the exception to that is Ganon's Tower could just be out there, and with what we've seen, you can get a lot out of that.
Okay, now Alaszun nearly made a horrible mistake. I don't think it's that big of a deal he hasn't gotten the boots until now, but if he left this area without the boots, then it would suddenly become a very big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for him to remember to get that. And looks like dazedcloud's gonna clear out Skull Woods here. Definitely makes sense. He knows it's a crystal. It's a fast clear. You can also do the... wonder if he'll be tempted to do the 2 Mire Firelock chests or not here.
And yeah, Alaszun has to be feeling awful about these boots here. But if we just look at what our 2 runners have and have done side by side, I think it's relatively safe to say that while the race is still close, Alaszun has better stuff.
Yeah, the main things that Alaszun does not have, he'll probably get soon. Because the main thing that dazedcloud has is the boots locking the hookshot in Mire and knowledge of where Ice Palace is at this point.
I'm honestly a little surprised Alaszun didn't route north and go straight to the King's Tomb entrance, but checking Hobo this way makes a lot of sense too. It's really nice to be able to check Hobo from Dark World because it saves you a long swim.
Yeah, and I don't think he's even checked the Eastern Palace area yet, so perhaps he's thinking about going over there with Pod. Though, as you mentioned, you can flute there at some point, but he can also save and quit to King's Tomb whenever.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't have a hook shot. That's always a little annoying, but then again, with all the items Alaszun has, he doesn't really need to go in the Dark World over to King's Tomb. He can just go in the Light World. And there's a bridge.
Yeah, I think we'll just see him save and quit out of something like Palace of Darkness to get there. Speaking of Palace of Darkness, we're seeing that dazedcloud not having the full... he's having the 50-50 right now between Pod and Swamp, so it makes a lot of sense to go here and clear out the boss if that's what he is in fact doing here. And meanwhile, there is GT over on Alaszun's side. It's not that interesting for Alaszun, though with the boots and the bomb, you might see him just bomb jump all the way to the left side.
Yeah, doing full left makes a lot of sense here to me, because it's not that hard, and if you find hookshot, this quickly becomes your best play, so why not just do it now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you don't have the boots, it's not going to be a big deal for people in top 16 of Crosskeys tournament. But if you don't have the boots, the first bomb jump you have to actually know the setup for. Whereas if you have the boots, it's just a standard vertical bomb jump to get across here, and then there's a standard horizontal bomb jump in the Fire Snake room, so it's not that hard.
Yeah, kind of the bigger deal of not having boots is just the number of bomb jumps you have to do gets very large.
Oh, absolutely. Getting to the Stalfos room is generally what you see if they don't have boots, because you have to do, 5 in a row to get to the bottom without the boots. But looks like Alaszun just wants to do the sort of first 4 over there.
So sort of an interesting quirk of that find is Alaszun has not found Sahas, given that Sahas was behind a bonk rock. Alaszun does not know that Thieves Town is a crystal, or Thieves Town is a pendant.
Yeah, so you'll probably see him clear that at some point. Though honestly, Thieves Town is going to become a decent option if Ice Palace isn't the answer, I think. Ice Palace and GT are the 2 main other places right now, and GT's not really in logic right now.
I do think it's interesting Alaszun checked those 2 caves on sort of the way to Pod and then just broke away and came north. With the flute, it's fine. It's just not what I would have done.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, you got a bit of a balance here between he wants to save and quit out of Zora, and you also kind of want to save and quit out of Pod. So probably going to just do those Pod and Eastern entrances later.
Yeah, it would not be surprising at all to see Alaszun go directly into Thieves Town after Zora River, though. Because in Alaszun's mind, it's extremely likely to be a crystal. He has everything he needs to full clear it. The dungeon's completely linear, so it's very little time to full clear. It's only punishing if it's a pendant, but of course, we know it is.
Yeah, that's where the little bit of boots information that dazedcloud has really helps. It gave him the pendant information. It also lets him know Ice Palace is available, because Ice Palace, Pendant Ice Palace, or Pendant Thieves Town versus Crystal Ice Palace. Ice Palace is a much better choice, especially since they have big key for Ice Palace as well.
Of course, I mean, there's always the natural sort of variation. This is where some of the swinginess of a mode like this comes in. If you had all the information both runners had, yeah, you would definitely choose Ice Palace. But if it so happens there's value in Thieves Town, then doing Thieves Town could be a huge advantage.
Yeah, especially if it's something annoying like a small key. If it's like the Cane of Samaria, dazedcloud would get pushed there after doing Ice Palace, because that's a pretty nice option that he knows for sure. You probably would do GT first because he hasn't gone to Pod or Eastern yet, so that's a nice option. But other than that, Thieves Town's a pretty nice option as well.
Though in this case, it looks like Alaszun is just going to check some boots entrances and find Ice Palace pretty immediately. I don't think there's any real justification not to just go in here. Yeah, you'd love to do Icebreaker, but at the end of the day, this is a crystal dungeon you can full clear, and you apparently have an unmarked Ice Palace small key too, so you can even route it a little more efficiently at least.
Yeah, sometimes if you find Ice Palace really early and have a lot of other good options, you might want to try to put it off for the Cane of Samaria a little bit. But when you're this late in the seed and you know that Cane of Samaria is one of your main gatekeepy sort of items, because if they get the Cane, they can just full clear Mire and Turtle Rock. So waiting for the Cane may be a fool's errand here, because the Cane is going to it could be pretty late with given how much it lags.
I'd also like to point out, just always one of the fun little things to be aware of, we have everything we need to do Pyramid Fairy now.
Yeah, and so I wouldn't be surprised if when dazedcloud makes his way over to that pyramid that he just does it if he remembers that the bomb shop's right there.
Yeah, that's actually a really nice sort of comboing that dazedcloud's going to be able to do, because he will have the 5 and 6 crystals and the mirror when he goes to the pyramid for the first time. So on his end, there's not even a time loss to just checking what's behind the super bomb. And almost always it's a long, slow check, so that's a nice advantage.
Because like at this point, the entrances that we're looking for mainly are Eastern, Swamp, and the Dam. Those are 3 pretty good entrances to find. I don't think we haven't checked like a ton of flipper lock stuff, but we've checked a decent amount of entrances, haven't found any of those 3.
Yeah, and it's being pointed out it's super far out of logic, and yeah, it is. But at the same time, I mean, if it's something like a single item cave with the Eastern Palace big key in it, I mean, that's just such a big deal. And it's so easy for the randomizer to do stuff like that.
Yeah, Key Sanity really adds value to checks that are kind of far out of logic, because those keys, they almost ignore logic because they lock so little.
That is, given what Icebreaker is, that is a really funny chest to have the Cane of Samaria.
Yeah, I always get a bit of a chuckle when you find the Cane in that chest or the hookshot in the big chest of Tower of Hera or in the upstairs. It's kind of just a statement about what this particular seed thinks about those 2 glitches.
Yeah, I don't like those glitches either. Good work, my randomizer.
That's why the hookshot keeps being in the big chest. I knew it was coded like that. Seeing a bit of a different choice between which bomb jump you prefer to do between these 2 runners here.
I'd like to point out another really big upside of that cane from Alaszun's perspective. He has a full clearable Mire on the table right now.
Yeah, that's true. He has not gone in there at all. So because that hook shot's one of the main things dazedcloud has over Alaszun, and he probably won't be like that for very long.
Though it's worth noting, of course, that Alaszun, in his mind, has just as much reason to be interested in the full clearable Thieves' Town. So, I mean, at this point, he honestly probably should be looking to do a map check as soon as he can. And we can also kill Trinex. We can go to a lot of crystals here.
Yeah, and we still haven't... I don't think we found the laser bridge entrance yet. It's actually fairly likely that's going to be Bumper Cave top or top of the mountain, because we haven't seen either of those.
Yeah, that's certainly plausible. And, yeah, I'm just looking, what do we actually need for go mode? We need both the Eastern Big Key and to find Eastern. And we need the Swamp Palace Small Key and the Dam. Yeah,
that really looks like all we need between these two. And then so Daze needs the flippers and Alaszun needs the hook shot. But Alaszun will certainly get that hook shot. It's really a big question mark, because one of the best times now for Alaszun to go, for Daze to go back for the flippers is right now, because he's got a portal and the Graveyard Ledge is Hyrule Castle left. But yeah, I think it would be a pretty big call to go in there. You'd have to definitely have that chest on your mind specifically. So pretty close finishes here in Ice Palace. I think the Tempered Sword from Alaszun gave him just a little bit, because he got here a little bit later, so the Tempered Sword just killing Pengators and the boss was just a little bit faster.
Of course, in Alaszun's mind as well, it also might be a really logical thing to do to go and, when he's going to Mire, he can also just kill Mothula, which is just one of those little sort of pieces of busy work that dazedcloud has already taken care of.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely what you do when you go over there. It's always nice when you have something like Mothula where you're like, okay, it's a crystal, I need to do it. It's never going to get much better. I'm going to get an item for free that might make my routing easier, maybe change my mind about stuff, and I can just get a little bit of time to think about how I'm going to route the seed while I'm getting them off.
dazedcloud gets the completely useless second Castle Tower small key. We don't know where Castle Tower is, but we're pretty certain at this point we are not fighting Aga 1. While Alaszun gets full pendant crystal knowledge from that map check, and he's already in the Mire region, which if he knew what all the pendants and crystals were, this is exactly what he would have chosen to do anyway. So, very convenient for him.
Yeah, for sure. He'll get his hook shot, and then it's going to be just looking for assorted keys and a couple entrances. And we'll get our first look at this Fire Rod Lock side. So Dazed having to take a little bit of extra time to go back here to get it. But honestly, it's not that bad, because the main problem would be if you had to come into Mire without beating it to get these chests. But with being able to clear out the dungeon, it's not really that much of a time loss.
Yeah, especially because you can just, from getting the vanilla big key chest in Mire, just go straight to the boss.
Yeah, and they actually have Spooky Action Glitch to kind of mitigate the time loss from hitting that switch one extra time. The rare times when Mire is vanilla enough that you can just use the normal Spooky Action Glitch setup. So these runners are kind of hot on each other's tails, and we'll see how long that... I think we're going to see them both go into Turtle Rock after this, too. It's like, you can go get 4 items from Laser Bridge, beat Trinex, come out the front of Turtle Rock, get 3 items there. It's just a really nice way to route in a bunch of checks.
Yeah, and dazedcloud's going to have a little bit of a linear progression advantage on that, because Alaszun is just starting his Mire clear, while dazedcloud is already on his way to Vitreous. But it's just more a question of what they left behind and what they're going to find going forward.
Yeah, because it's definitely way too early to tell what's going to happen with the Swamp Small and the Dam and stuff being out there. Because the Swamp Small, I think, is actually the main thing. Because the Dam and Eastern, they're going to show up. They have access to every entrance, I believe, right now.
The only,
GT, obviously.
Yeah, the only possible real hiccup there is if Bombos is needed for the Turtle Rock entrance. That's the one thing we don't know about, but I mean, it probably isn't.
Yeah, for sure. And because and then can't really say it enough that it's gonna come down for dazedcloud side at least. When do you get those required flippers? And also, so Alaszun, I think, has a bit of an exploration advantage on dazedcloud as well, because we haven't seen the pyramid area or GT yet from Dazed.
Alaszun helping chart out his Mire route by pulling off the map. Very efficient.
And so there's another pod small from Mire, and that's interesting because of where pod is. You might see one of these. I think for sure Alaszun goes over there after getting that pod small to go to the back of pod. We'll see if Dazed wants to go in for a couple of one-offs in pod. I guess it would only be one one-off.
I don't really blame him for not. Just because in this situation, you can go back so easily. You have a flute. You have the mitts.
So the one thing that could be nice about it is you could... I guess it takes too long to take a death there for a setting of a save scum, because you can just save and quit your Kakariko to get here. But yeah, I agree. It's not too important to get there. But yeah, this Turtle Rock play definitely makes a lot of sense. There's just so many items that you can get in such an efficient way. The one thing that I always hate about this is, well, I think you probably won't run into it here because of where these almost certainly have to be the guaranteed connectors, but sometimes when you get to Laser Bridge, you'll find that it just connects like Ganon's Tower or something, and you can't go back in.
The funniest thing is when you come out the front, your plan is to do the 3 chests in the front, and the front is Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, it's pretty obnoxious. Because then you have to come in and do the front from the coming in through the back.
But in dazedcloud's mind, is there any connector he could find that would actually help him? I'm not sure he has any reason to go out of the Laser Bridge.
Top of the mountain. Well, it wouldn't help from... It doesn't give him anything new except the top of the mountain item, which he's already seen. But it gives him just a quicker way to get to those Dark Death Mountain checks. Though you wouldn't actually leave for it. It wouldn't actually be useful for him, but you might check it.
Yeah, it just feels to me like the risk of being GT'd. I don't know, maybe we've counted every connector and you know you're not getting GT'd, but it feels to me like a needless risk.
Yeah. Because you can't... If you could go back into the floating island, then I think it would make sense to do it, so you get a couple of entrances pretty quick, but with that being impossible, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, Alaszun having a little bit of a struggle in Dark Mire. Of all the dark rooms that you commonly have to do in A Link to the Past Randomizer, I do think Mire is the toughest.
Yeah, absolutely. Those Medusa heads are really the worst part of that room, because there's the really nice setup where you walk over the switch and then walk to the wall and paste block and then throw it upwards, but that gets ruined by getting hit by a Medusa head.
Meanwhile, dazedcloud having a relatively subpar hammer Trinex. The main problem he ran into was he got that thing where you hit the head with the hammer 3 times, but your last hit is just a little too late. It doesn't count.
So my least favorite thing to do on this hammer Trinex is when you frame rule yourself on the ice rod shot and it goes right through the fire head.
Oh, I think all runners really appreciate the large and generous hitbox of the Ice Rod.
But there's a tempered sword on Trinex. We'll see if there's that other sword is in the chicken hut on the pyramid. So dazedcloud will probably get to that on the entrance hunt, but nice to get that.
This does guarantee that the main boss fight in which the gold sword saves time, Trinex, is not something that's going to happen.
Day's going to check this. I don't know if he actually saw this connector, because I think this might... I wonder if this is a Hyrule Castle entrance. So if Day's... Oh, he would have been so good if he went in there. Because I think that's Hyrule Castle right there. But I guess he remembered. Or no, maybe he wants to do this first. Because if that Hyrule Castle right leads into Dark Cross, that could be a huge point for this race.
Yeah, given that especially, you have to feel like dazedcloud isn't thinking about Dark Cross at all. And it makes sense he's not thinking about it at all. It's one isolated check he left behind so long ago. He still doesn't have the lamp. But that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, because it's the locations are so bad for Hyrule Castle. You have East to Death Mountains, you have Graveyard Legend, you have that one. Yeah, looks like we got another game of Follow the Leader with Alaszun going to do Turtle Rock. It just makes so much sense given the loadout that they have. They want to do dungeons right now, and these are just the best way to do the dungeons.
Well, there's a hard guarantee that every entrance in the world is accessible.
All right, so nope, dazedcloud's busting out the flute, so not going to go get those flippers from the Dark Cross there.
At this point, I think it's actually pretty important for dazedcloud that the Swamp Small Key is somewhere really bad. Because
I agree.
The way this is going, I feel like if they both have to full clear, there's a really good chance dazedcloud wins. But there's a really high probability that Alaszun has to check a lot less than dazedcloud.
Yeah, because from from what it looks like right now, Alaszun just seems to be a little bit behind, but he's got a decent exploration advantage. So once dazedcloud goes through and checks like the pyramid that Alaszun's already checked, they're going to be pretty close to equal footing. But those flippers are just so bad to get back to.
I'm not really sure he has an exploration advantage. dazedcloud has checked a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what has Daze done that Alaszun didn't do, because Alaszun did the whole Dark World.
Alaszun still hasn't done the pod area. I don't think Daze has either, but...
That's true. He has 3 checks in the pod area. So I think actually neither of these runners have checked the eastern area even, which is interesting because they had the flute and hammer for quite a while, but they also had a lot to do.
Yeah, it feels really likely that Eastern itself and the dam are going to be over there.
Yeah, there's got to be at least one of those over there, because I mean, I guess you could have one be in the pyramid and the other be in Turtle Rock or something.
Yeah, certainly if Super Bomb is important, I feel like it's very likely that works out in dazedcloud's favor, because we know he can route the Super Bomb check without even going out of his way, and that's just not the world Alaszun lives in.
Yeah, that would be a much less desirable check for Alaszun. Because we still haven't seen also the Upgrade Fairy entrance or the Ice Palace entrance yet either. And that bomb bus did end up being required to open this Turtle Rock, so it was nice to get that from Turtle Rock before coming here. And we've already seen this item. I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't anything interesting. So we've seen all of those, so no reason for Daze to do anything in there.
I think it was 50 rupees. It definitely was a junk item.
Yeah, whatever it was not worth it. And we're again in another part of the show where if you're rooting for dazedcloud, you gotta wonder, he's by a Hyrule Castle entrance. And this is honestly the last time he'll ever be over here.
He should be hearing Hyrule Castle music right now, even if he's, I think, using an MSU that makes it a little harder on him. He's getting a reminder. The game's trying to help you.
Yeah, because like after this, you would have to go explicitly for that chest specifically, because there's nothing else that's near a Hyrule Castle entrance that you'll ever go to again.
Small Key to Desert's an interesting item. If nothing else, you have to say that is an interesting item.
Yeah, it gives it just a fetch quest for 2 items. We found all the Desert Palace items relatively early. Or entrances relatively early. Alright, so I think with this...
Flippers.
Yeah, I think that flippers are going to probably be a hard last location for Daze. So I think your point about this Daze really needing this to be a full clear seed looking pretty true right now.
That being said, it's not implausible that it will be. And the fact that the item we're missing is the Swamp Big Key is pretty good news for Daze. Or the Swamp Small Key is pretty good news for Daze, because that's the only place he actually needs the flippers.
Yeah, and something that's interesting that can happen sometimes is you can, especially with GT, they only have one GT small key, right? So if you, for whatever reason, dazedcloud is on a route that fake flip ring makes sense, maybe he goes to Dark Shopping Mall or something and gets a GT small, then that can kind of tell you about where the flippers aren't going to be.
Yeah, and you could also end up with some interesting situations this could help dazedcloud. For instance, if he thinks, I'm 2 items from go mode, I might as well climb GT, and it turns out that the Swamp Small's up there. Whereas Alaszun's like, I'm 1 item from go mode, I'm not climbing.
Yeah, because maybe that, though it would be hard to think where that, because like you're not going to skip doing GT if you still need the flippers after that. And speaking of the Ice Palace and Upgrade Fairy entrance, looks like Alaszun is going to show us them. You see the Ice Palace entrance is nothing useful. Also seeing the Eastern Pod area, and I don't recall seeing anything useful over here yet. We just got this Saha's Hut.
It's kind of interesting that we're just not finding value in this direction. Alaszun finding Hype Cave, though. This could have some value for him. Okay, so Hype Cave was a solid 0 out of 10 Hype Cave today. Just absolutely nothing of interest in it. And that's really good news for dazedcloud, because I think it goes without saying if the Swamp Small Key just... Oh, we still need the Eastern Big Key, too. That could be a sticking point.
Yeah, and I think at this point, you'll probably find one of them in Right Side GT. And here's the Dam, so that's been available for a while.
But yeah, if the 2 remaining items just fall into Alaszun's lap without considerable difficulty, that's going to be really bad news for dazedcloud. The good news for dazedcloud is it seems pretty likely that's not going to happen. Yeah,
because you could have the off chance that they're both in left side GT, for instance, or even right side GT now. We'll see how much, we'll get to see the answer to that question now as dazedcloud goes into that in relatively shortly. Just got a mirror here.
There's no way Alaszun is surprised that was a Turtle Rock Small Key, given how important he's already seen mitts are.
Yeah, with the 3 dungeons over there and the hook shot, it's pretty safe to say that that's required.
And yeah, I would expect at a minimum for dazedcloud to clear the entire basement of Ganon's Tower here. Like, the route's very natural. You just do right side up to the small key, you mirror, you do full left side, and then you decide whether to climb after that.
Yeah, it's important with the 1 small key to do it in the order that dazedcloud is doing it, because if you do the thing you mentioned where you steal the small key, you can full clear GT with just the 1 small. But if you go left first, then you're going to have to either like skip the fire bar and come back, or you just will have a bad time.
I will say at this point you have to consider, well, for one, you have to consider that getting wall mastered in Tile Room is slow. But you also have to consider that it's pretty likely there's a GT small key in Swamp Palace, and that could definitely limit how much value GT can have.
Yep, very good point, because there's a lot of stuff that's locked by all the small keys in GT. There's what? 10 and yeah, like 9 chests, I believe. No, 10 that are locked by all 4. And dazedcloud, remembering he has the cape, busting out the grabbing onto a wall, or in this case, the fire shooter glitch to not use any magic.
Yeah, this is one of the sort of quirkier Link to the Past glitches. This is actually a glitch that works in every version of the game. You can do this on the US version if you want to.
The most interesting one to me is the one where you're on Vitreous, where if you just are doing too much and swiping the eyeballs too fast, then the cape also doesn't bring magic.
That has nothing to do with Vitreous. It's actually just there are frames during your sword swing animation with the cape out where it doesn't drain magic, so if you just mash sword, the magic drain rate gets really low.
Oh, nice. I thought it was hitting something, but I guess if it's just the sword swinging, that's good to know.
I think the little bit of hit lag you create when you hit things makes it even more efficient. The cape is not the best programmed item in this game.
Yeah, because it just checks, it just ticks down magic at a set rate, and if you're doing stuff that interrupts the game and can't think about ticking down magic, then it just is like, I'll forget about that. And you can understand, because like, of all the priorities for the game, like making sure the user has less magic, not that important. Much rather have the game not crash.
Yeah, it's one of the cases where there's actually a really buggy mechanic, but it mostly affects a relatively minor thing, and when the bug comes into play, it's almost always in the player's favor, so people don't think about it too much.
Did dazedcloud just forget that key? I think dazedcloud forgot to get the key under the pod.
He should notice that his key count is wrong soon.
He'll get forced out at some point. It looks like he's just not interested in doing anymore.
The nightmare scenario for dazedcloud is he left because he thought he didn't have any keys, and he's just totally forgotten about the key in the pot.
Yeah. Getting wall mastered in Tile Room can do some things to your brain. Looks like we are going to see dazedcloud do the play where you pick up the bomb here and do that entrance right away. So we'll see if this is Eastern Palace, which is the main thing we're still looking for.
Honestly, it's really likely to be... I'm not quickly thinking of another spot that neither runner is checked, other than obviously Ganon's Tower, which isn't Eastern Palace.
Back of Skullwoods is the only other one I can think of.
Didn't Alaszun just check that?
Oh, I might not have seen it on his side then.
Yep, there's Eastern. I think that's, from chat's view, the last location it could have been in, though it was not last location for dazedcloud.
Yeah.
It probably will be last location for Alaszun.
Yeah, for sure. I can't imagine him checking that. Because, like, the Turtle Rock entrance is easy to leave behind, but he hasn't done any of the top of Dark Death Mountain yet either, so you want to do that.
Though, of course, then again, if you told Alaszun, hey, you're going to last location a required entrance, it's going to be Eastern Palace and you still don't have the big key, he would probably say, okay, sounds great.
And we see dazedcloud able to get his golden sword out of the chicken hut, and nothing else really useful over here. There's the Swamp Small.
Swamp Small underwater. Yeah. So, a really likely way for this seed to go is that the Eastern Big Key is in Swamp Palace.
Yeah, and that would be, I think, pretty good for Alaszun. That would be hard for dazedcloud to come back from with the flippers being where it is. You'd have to get bailed out by like the Hyrule Castle Small and then saving and quitting Tobacco's Cave.
Okay, so dazedcloud is going into EP. At this point, the best thing for dazedcloud is if Eastern Big Key is just in Eastern. Because it's really likely Alaszun would then full clear Swamp for nothing, and possibly do a lot of work in GT for nothing.
Yeah, with EP, especially if you get the Hyrule Small to incentivize him to go back to... Because now he has the lamp, so maybe he's been thinking about that all along with the Dark Cross, like I'll get it from the back, with given where Sank is.
Yeah, it's just a very tough scenario. Like, I suspect dazedcloud's going to find that Swamp Small very soon after he leaves here. It's not going to do a thing for him without the flippers, but it's going to put him one item from go mode. And it's unfortunately for him an item he could have had a long time ago.
But yeah, this is going to be pretty telling about how this seed is going to go, these next few checks here, because if the Eastern Palace Big is in Swamp, then that's pretty much going to be a good game for Alaszun. He doesn't need to find anything else, just needs to beat dungeons he already knows where they are. Whereas if it's not, then it's going to still get interesting.
Yeah, I feel like if it's in Swamp or if it's just going down left side GT, that's going to really work in Alaszun's favor. If it's somewhere really bad, like after the GT climb, it might work out to be about a wash. And if it's in its totally vanilla location, that's actually really good for dazedcloud.
Yeah, because even this late, I don't think dipping Eastern is just strictly the best option mathematically, because we still have a lot of items in GT and Thieves Town that could just have the Eastern Big. I mean, like, the extra equity you get from if Eastern Palace Big is in here, you save a lot of time. It's notable, but I don't think it tips the scale towards that.
Yeah, the big thing is, since Alaszun hasn't walked in the door of Eastern Palace yet, he knows he's Eastern Palace Big Key from Go Mode. What reason does he have to hunt for Eastern Palace? He has every item to enter every entrance in the world. He's just not even going to try to go to Eastern Palace until he's exhausted all of his superior options.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Because that's not even a good entrance for Alaszun. It's just an entrance that's sitting by itself. He has to walk over there in the Dark World and Mirror. It's not a particularly fun thing to do.
Yeah, and Alaszun is, at least for now, skipping left side Swamp, while dazedcloud finds a Swamp Small Key. dazedcloud is the flippers in Eastern Big from Go Mode. Eastern Big's location is still a mystery to us. We've seen 6 out of 10 in Swamp, and 0 of them have been Big Keys.
Yeah, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
Basement, just what we're thinking about.
Oh no. But the one thing, it definitely makes a lot of sense for Alaszun to skip the left side here because you just need the one item. It's not that bad to come back. The time save isn't insane, but the time save, if you do find the Eastern Palace Big back here, is significant. So, and I don't think Dazed has done Zora or Catfish, so that's where it looks like where he's going now.
So yeah, the 8 items on the way in Swamp were pretty bad. The most important things we found were those GT small keys. So GT has a big neon sign on its front door. Come in progression here.
Yeah, that is what they get, 2 or 3 in there. And I think those keys are gonna, that's why Alaszun's not going back in for left side. Because you're thinking, okay, I've got, what, 20-something items in Ganon's Tower that are now available to me? I'd rather do those than the 2 that are over in left side Swamp.
It looks to me like Alaszun is just gonna go and take care of Tower Hera. He can do Hera Basement, get 2 more checks in there, and he's going to 6 crystals. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, because you have to beat Moldorm at some point, and if Moldorm has the Eastern Palace Big Key, that's just a huge time save versus if you had done this any later. Whereas if he doesn't, the worst case scenario is you have to come back and do another Hero Pod for the Big Key as a really bad location for the Eastern Big, but your opponent's probably going to be having a bad time too in that situation.
Oh my word, Eastern Big Key is in this room in Hera. Not in the room dazedcloud, or not in the chest dazedcloud needed it to be.
Nope.
That's probably GG. Alaszun just knocks out Moldorm here, checks his remaining entrances. I don't know if he has another one left other than the Super Bomb entrance. He might have one. I think
he might have one. He has
entrance.
Turtle Rock entrance for sure, and I don't know if he has other stuff up here as well. So you just go up here and check those entrances, and then do the pyramid.
But yeah, there's basically no scenario here in which dazedcloud makes his way back to Dark Cross, and then comes here into Hera, and then catches up. It just, there's no way it's going to happen.
Well, I mean, so counter argument, I think that's the only scenario that dazedcloud gets the flippers before last location, because this is actually the closest he's going to be to that flippers for the rest of the seed.
Of course, I mean, there's also just the linear progression situation. The fact is, Alaszun is at 6 crystals and dazedcloud's at 4. And when you have someone in go mode, that's just too big of a gap.
Yeah, it would really take Alaszun mismarking his entrances to not know where Eastern is at this point, I think.
Yeah, smart of Alaszun using this connector to go to the Turtle Rock entrance very quickly. We know this isn't going to give him Eastern Palace, but in his mind, this is a faster check. Well, mathematically, this is a faster check. In his mind, this is a credible possibility.
The chat pointing out Alaszun did skip Bombos, and that's important because you can't get back to the front of Turtle Rock easily. So he really is going to have to Hail Mary, and from his point of view, the 50-50 that it's in the pyramid, or else feel really bad.
Yeah, that's a good point. Alaszun is probably in panic mode there because he knows it's really likely that's required. And you see, he's actually going to give up the time of actually checking the 2 castle tower items just because he's seeing, oh no, Bombos could be required. I thought I was in go mode.
Yeah, because this is absolutely, like, from what we were seeing, there was no way that Alaszun, if he marked everything, like, because even if you do think you need Bombos, I think you do the Hail Mary and do the bomb first before you go on a Bombos hunt. But if he, for whatever reason, forgets that he has the pyramid entrances in play, then that's really the last hope here for Dazed.
Yeah, I do think it's really likely that Alaszun's next play here is going and turning in the Super Bomb and then breathing a huge sigh of relief.
Yeah. Especially with the Super Bomb being where it is, it's pretty easy. And yeah, fluting over to 5, there is not a good reason to flute to 5. If he wanted to go to Ganon's Tower, he would not have hit the hammer there, probably would have fluted to Link's house, and there's nothing else over here.
And while we were discussing that, dazedcloud took care of business in the same way and is headed to finish Eastern Palace. So dazedcloud will be at 6 crystals when Alaszun finishes. It's just the flippers absolutely killed him.
Yeah, and this race would have been really close if dazedcloud had just gone to Dark Cross back there when they were both in Hyrule Castle. Because even with the flippers, though, I guess you have to wonder when Dazed would have done. He probably would have done Swamp already, so it would be really close.
I mean, given how early Alaszun had the flippers, you really have to say it's hard. You can't project how the race would have gone because it just would have changed everything.
Yeah. Well, what I'm trying to get at is that I'm just like, sometimes you see a race like this where one runner just doesn't get to a location they need. Like, oh, that other guy only won because that one guy didn't get the item. But I think this race, you can't really say that because this would still been, it would have been a very close race if dazedcloud, it's not like dazedcloud runs away with it because the flippers earlier.
Yeah, you can't say at all that Alaszun would not have won if dazedcloud got the flippers his first time in Hyrule Castle, but you can definitely say that leaving the flippers behind absolutely did kill dazedcloud in this race.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really appreciate Alaszun taking the Hail Mary for silver arrows in the one chest that you hookshot to anyway.
Yeah, I really like that playing Crosskeys when you're at like 200 completion, because then any extra chest is pretty likely to have something. This one, they actually have a decent amount of skipped items though, so it's not incredibly likely to be silvers. We've done a lot of GT skipped, all of Thieves Town and the Green Pendant, Summit Desert.
It is interesting that dazedcloud had silvers so early, and Alaszun is never going to get them. Now, Alaszun is ahead by well more than a silverless Ganon versus silvers Ganon, of course, but just kind of interesting he never bumped into those.
Yeah, where were those? In Palace of Darkness back?
They were in Hookshot Cave. And yeah, that's kind of fair, because Alaszun had the hook shot a good bit later than dazedcloud, just because he had the boots a lot later than dazedcloud.
Yeah, once he got the hook shot, there was just a lot of other stuff to do.
But of course, that was a bit of an efficiency for him, because he was able to full clear Mire on his first trip in.
And dazedcloud headed to Thieves Town, so that, what, 5 items here if you count the Green Pendant?
Yeah, this is 100% the smart density play. We know it's wrong, but like with the knowledge dazedcloud has, this is by far the most reasonable play, especially because the only other real density play is GT, and it's an hour 50 in. If just assuming GT is loaded with value is the answer, you have to assume you've already lost.
Yeah, and it's still on only the one small key, so paying attention to that logic. And we also know that a lot of those keys are flipper locked. And Alaszun has beaten all the bosses he needs. He's gonna go drop down into Ganon for the second time, actually, because it made sense for him to YOLO it earlier. Honda Phase 3 over here. With the Gold Sword really makes those first 2 phases. The one cycle becomes completely free if you have the Gold Sword.
To answer the question about Ganon's pattern, I don't believe his teleport RNG changes until he actually teleports. Because Ganon, I can actually explain. You know how all the bosses in Randomizer, unlike in Vanilla, have seeded RNG per seed, so all runners will get the same RNG?
Yeah.
Ganon actually has 2 independent RNG seedings. One of them is for his general movement, and the other is specifically for Ganon ports. This was implemented because it was discovered that sometimes, based on how the phases 1 and 2 of fights were going, runners were desyncing on Ganon ports, so they reworked the Ganon RNG.
That's nice. But would it change? Does it change the the regular first movement then if you drop in for Ganon?
I think there's a good chance it does. It honestly might depend on how quickly you save and quit. That I can't answer for sure, but that's also not going to be that. It's actually not going to matter at all with Gold Sword.
Yeah, with Gold Sword, it's completely free. Some people have preferred patterns for the one cycle with the Tempered or with Master Sword, but with Gold Sword, you can get the double one no matter where he stands. Alright, so down goes Ganon on Alaszun's side. So get your GGs in chat. All he's got to do is cross this bridge, and he will be moving on to the second round of this tournament to play Wall Kicks. And Alaszun finishing with the official time of 1:52.48. So get your GGs in chat. Pretty quick overall seed. Got to do some nice skips of like GT and Thieves Town on his side.
Yeah, I feel like Alaszun was able to dispense with a lot of dungeons in his first trip into them, and that ended up being a good efficiency thing for him.
And looks like we're going to have Alaszun join us for an interview.
Hey there, Alaszun. GG's.
GG's.
So I think we can dub this the
good if you
Battle
could
of
just-
the Footwear.
I don't think you need to be good if you can just skip everything.
The whole
I suspect I was a little bit late to those boots, just the tiniest bit.
Yeah, but on the other hand, the thing that really helped you out was that dazedcloud still doesn't have flippers. So like I said, it was the Battle of the Footwear, and with your choice of flippers over boots, you walked to victory on this one.
Not the one I would have suspected that would normally win, but yeah. I felt actually pretty good at those flippers because a lot of people could do that dark room with nearly nothing, but it is kind of nasty still. And so when I made it through relatively cleanly that first time, I'm just like, all right, well, it's low percent, but there's a chance. I'm just glad it wasn't Spike Cave again with the fire rod again getting him.
That was so funny though, seeing the fire rod and Spike again.
Mike was muted, but I kind of like just lost my brain. I mean, you can tell I lost my brain for a second because I was supposed to go, after that I was going to go get the potion shop item. And it was like, oh my god, it's there again, I can't believe it. Yeah.
I will say, when dazedcloud saw that, he did invoke the Spirit of F. Coughlin and throw a bomb at it.
I don't really blame him for that. I don't rage bomb things. But that one was pretty rude.
Yeah, but it really was just, the flippers absolutely killed him. He's been near castle entrances at several points since, and he's now climbing GT looking for flippers. It's easy to see how this happened, but it's just really unfortunate that one honestly pretty isolated check is just, it was absolute doom for dazedcloud.
Yeah, I also apparently lucked out and did not get punished by accidentally quick hopping down the ledge from Bumper Cave before realizing, wait, no, checks. Oh, crap.
It did manage to give you a lot of heartburn, though, because you want to guess where the Bombos medallion was?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. One of my viewers, after I finished, said, well, Lynn's going to yell at you about skipping TR, because guess where Bombos was? And I'm like, yeah. To be fair, that was going to be one of my faster revisits. Given that we had all 4 keys already to put it fully in logic. And I mean, obviously, like, that was the mids 2 and it put a bunch of other things in logic. I think at the time I beat, when I got that Eastern Big Key, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to check these entrances here and just kind of go at that point. I think my plan was to do what I had left of GT Basement and then to flute to 7 and do... when I fluted to 7 to check Dam, it was both to check Dam because I can hear Goomba screaming in my ear at me for not immediately fluting to 7. Only I was already in pod by the time I'm like, oh crap, I should have done that. But my play after that was literally going to be to run into Total Rock and go through there at that point, which would have, I mean, insulated me from that. But the Swamp Salt was there, obviously, so I kind of put an audible there.
So there was one really interesting decision point in this race that ended up saving you a chunk of time that it looked like you were at risk of losing. When you found the Thieves Town Big Key, you hadn't really done any map checks. You had no clue with pendants or crystals. And you had several other big keys by the time you really had a free opening in your routing. And you went to the Mire area, map check, learned Thieves with a pendant. Were you tempted to just go straight into Thieves Town and hope it was a crystal?
Not at all. I looked at my maps and I've said, okay, I have a ton of maps here. I can get this information. I knew Skullwoods was a red crystal at that point. And so I'm just like, all right, let me go to Skullwoods, I'll get that, and then that's my Dark World, I can go do a quick map check. And I got the information that I need, because I'm like, I have 2 pendants already, I just need a little bit of information here. Pod was disappointing. That was a little surprising. Although I guess, logically, the only thing you really needed Pod for was the Skullwood Small off of Helmasaur. Which is actually why I didn't do Pyramid Fairy earlier than I did. Is because my Skullwood Small from Helmasaur never came into logic. Which is a kind of silly reason to do it, but I get very, very greedy near the end of seeds and try to make sure, hey, I don't want to accidentally miss more. Oh.
Yeah. I can imagine you're still feeling queasy from when you saw that Bombos symbol on top of Turtle Rock.
I marked Go mode on my tracker, and I kind of paused and I'm like, well, I mean, I guess I'm not technically in Go mode. If Eastern's in Turtle Rock and it's Bombos, but I mean, like, it's 33% to be Bombos, and I'm at, like, I have, like, 6 other entrances, so I'm, like, 97% in Go mode.
And you also have to factor in when you're that deep into a seed and you still haven't located one medallion, that probably that medallion's in the dungeon that's gated by it.
Yeah, I mean, I would usually agree with you. I had so much open still that I'm not actually sure I agree in this case. Although I did almost skip. I almost went back in for left side just I would have felt really bad about it, but just because it was so bad to get back to Swamp in that seed. Although I think actually what I was doing is I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to leave my portal here at Ice Road Cave, and I'm just going to go straight to Hera, and maybe I'll luck out and Eastern Big will be in Hera. Because I'm not really expecting much, because it's not like I have the Hera Big to say, hey, go to Hera. But it just had to be nice. Which is,
if you were really concerned about where that last pod small key was to put it into logic, we just learned it was on left side GT.
Lovely. Just lovely.
It's actually pretty remarkable to me, at least, that neither of you sequence broke left side GT. Was it just because you were convinced that there were GT small keys in Swamp and it was all going to be illogical?
Sorry, I was chatting Race Room for a second. It was a mix of things. It was just kind of, I can harvest a lot of that quick value in left side, and it's a very, very easy GT to revisit. Yeah, that's a really small collection rate, holy crap. That it just was like, hey, this is like a really... That's, I mean, I'm not surprised. Like, I've got 20 checks in GT I didn't touch. I go moded Eastern, I never touched green pendant, like, I've got so much crap. It's really just that I had stuff that I knew I had to do. And so, since I found GT, I'm like, you know what, like, let me harvest the quick, super easy checks, but I don't really want to go super deep into this right now, especially because I was sitting there on one key. And so I didn't want to put myself in an awkward position where I'm like, oh, you found the Cane of Samaria! But you don't have any keys to go to the right side. And so I just played it a little bit defensively there. I felt really good about my route for everything that wasn't the boots.
Hey, if there's a seed in which you want to argue boots are overrated, this is the one. But it looks like we're joined by dazedcloud. GG's dazedcloud.
GG's.
Yeah, like I was telling Alaszun earlier, this was the battle of the footwear. Your boots against his flippers, and today his flippers won.
Yeah, I'm kicking myself. I'm kicking myself.
When did you get the boots?
Oh, like 5 minutes in.
Yeah, I got them at like an hour. Because I had the mirror and pearl sword. I'm like, I'm just gonna grade this. I'm gonna do pyramid and castle together, and like, as long as it's not like the boots on the one item drop down in there. And I just kind of peeked my head. I'm just like, you gotta be shitting me.
Well, like with me, I'm looking around like desperately just trying to find the thing. I mean, I don't win this either way. Honestly, I was feeling really good there for a bit. And then, I mean, there was a chance, right? But I mean, like, the biggest thing that what I would have needed to have done, because I didn't even find Swamp yet. I'm imagining that's down in the in Dark Shopping Mall area.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the only thing I had left. I mean, with no flippers, it was just like, well, I mean, that's where it is. But like, my thing is just like, I didn't do Dark Cross just because I didn't have the lamp. at the time, and I'm like, it's not in logic. It's one item. You know, it's probably not going to burn me. I was wrong. I was wrong. It got me good. So yeah, I don't know if it would have been any different if I had gotten that early. I would have found Swamp early. I still was quite late to the dam. I mean, I think I got the dam, or I don't remember. I want to say the dam was around like 1:30. So if I do that, and then if I decided to do Hera before I go to Eastern, maybe this is close. Maybe this is close. But I mean, yeah, nah, that's just not my day. Not my day.
Yeah,
not my tournament anymore either, so.
Yeah,
I mean, you had a
those
really
were the
fucking good run,
breaks.
man. I got the dam, it looks like, about the same time you did. I got the dam at about 1:30, although I'm annoyed with myself that I didn't instantly flute after checking the eastern area. Because I actually went back in and cleaned up pod, because I had 5 pod smalls at that point, and had only had 2 when I found it, and went for Helmasaur instead of the back, and so it seemed kind of juicy. And so that I found the swamp small, I'm just like, oops, well, I feel stupid now.
Well, I mean, at the end there, I was like, when I found GT, I'm just kind of thinking to myself, I've got 1 GT key. Like,
Yep.
there's nothing I should be doing in here, really. And I ended up still doing right side just because I was like, well, if I'm going to go this way, if I'm going to do tile room, let me at least go check the next 4. And then I did, what's it called? Stalfo's room there, and got the Thieves Town big key, which sent me on another little goose chase afterwards. And I'll be honest, I should have just, I don't know. It just, at the end there, it just all fell apart. So, I mean, what are you going to do, you know? That's kind of the way it's been for me.
In all honesty, once you were at the point where you found the Thieves Town big key and went on all that, you were kind of chasing win conditions, because by that point it was too late to go back to Dark Cross. You would have had to have done it earlier.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the one thing. I mean, I didn't do that with the idea that somehow I would magically remember later, and that never happens.
Yeah,
You know,
the part where we really thought you were about to do it was when you mirrored after coming out of beating Turtle Rock, because that was a castle door right there.
Oh, you're right. That was right there, wasn't it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
What are you gonna do?
and it was after you left there that I kind of figured your one way to win the race from that game state was if this just turned into a full clear seed and you had the last location like the Swamp Small Key, and that's just not what it was.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
thing was just sitting there.
I created an out for you too. When I got down and beat Turtle Rock, I just instinctively quick hopped down and forgot to check the front. Although it was pretty high on my list of places to go back to, so I got the Eastern Big Hair. I'm like, ha, go mode. And then I went on the Turtle Rock part. I'm like, maybe not.
I hope that wasn't Eastern. Yeah. Oh man, I mean, it's just one of those things. It's like when there was just at the end game, I think I was just getting desperate. Because like I found Eastern, and like I'm in my head, I'm going through all of the keys that's required for Eastern to be the play there. And I'm sitting in, I opened it. I didn't have the Eastern big key, so I opened it, and then I'm looking at it for a second. I walk like halfway off the screen almost, and then I'm just like, no, okay, to get to it, you needed 6 keys out of pod, and you're like, you have 5. You might have just, I'm like, And so I went back and did it. Of course, found nothing. And just, I mean, at the end of the game, it's just like, hey, what can I do to just do things that absolutely will not help me?
In all honesty, I thought that was a pretty reasonable win condition for you, because based on what we knew in the race at the time, between viewership was only missing Eastern Big and Swamp Small at the moment. If Eastern Big had been in Eastern, Alaszun hadn't found Eastern. He went to the pyramid before he had both red crystals. I would assume he would have full cleared everywhere in the world looking for Eastern Big Key.
No, I would have done Eastern. I would have gone in.
You would have done Eastern before going back and clearing out all of GT with all the GT small keys you would have gotten in Swamp?
No, I would have cleared the basement of GT, which probably would have taken about 4 or 5 minutes. But that routed very, very naturally into checking the Pyramid Fairy check. So I was gonna flute to the my plan going in when I was like, I'm down to this entrance. Or mentally, I'm like, if I get down to this entrance, my plan going in was to flute to 5, go into Dark World, mirror in front of GT, clear out the basement, and then go to Pyramid Fairy because that was just such a nice big bomb spot.
Oh, it was a perfect big bomb
Oh, it was
spot.
so good.
That was the reason I did it right there. It was just like, I know
Yeah,
this is
it was-
probably not going to have anything, but I mean, I'm going to do it anyway. And then it had Eastern, and I'm like, all right, fine. That's cool. I'm good.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's no surprise to you at all, Days, that I think there were literally 3 GT small keys in Swamp. I don't know, maybe one of them was in one of the 6 spots in Pod. I don't remember, but I think there were.
I think there are only 2 in Swamp. Trying to
That's why
remember because I did
That's
find
why
all
I
4.
climbed. I mean, that's why I climbed before I went to the left side there at the end. Because I mean, I don't look at the race time. I've got it hidden while I'm racing, right? And so that's why I was like, I just went straight for the climb. I'm just like, all right, I got 1 key. It's gonna be at the top. And then I got to the top, and I'm like, it's not here. I have 100% lost. And by that point, I had 100% lost. I just didn't know it. But yeah, that it wasn't. Yeah, and then I came back down, and I'm just like, I'm depressed at that point because I'm like, I've blown it, and then
I mean,
then I look
honestly,
and I was like, 5 minutes ago I lost actually, so I'm good.
super respect to you for a really tough call. Like, I think not only is that a tough call, I think that's absolutely the right call too. Is that when you're crunched down that low on logic, I don't think it makes any sense to sequence break past those small keys. And so checking those first 2 chests in GT, I think actually makes a ton of sense.
I think that helped me a lot is that I didn't find GT until late. Like GT was one of the last things I found, just because of the kind of the way I routed. I was doing other things the whole rest of the time, so I didn't get to the pod area or eastern area for a long time.
Yep. It was really easy to put off large chunks of that game for a really long time.
Yeah, you guys actually were very symmetric on your decision making in terms of the pod eastern area. Just no hurry.
Yeah. I hate that area. It's long. If you've got boots, it's not terrible, but even then, it's long and it takes so much longer than you think it does.
So yeah, I guess to kind of move us along a bit, I'll say that what you had an overall very good run in this tournament, dazedcloud. Remember, being in this bracket at all means you were in the top 10% of runners, and at least I didn't think this was a very easy tournament. So I hope you at least can feel like you have something to be proud of for how far you made it. But
oh hell yeah,
it's unfortunately the end of the road.
This is 2 years in a row for you too, right?
Yeah.
Because you made top 6 last year, I want to say.
Well, I was in winners bracket up against like Lynn, and Lynn was the one who knocked me out of winners bracket there. Like I want to say 3-4 matches in. Like I was getting pretty. I was starting to dream last year a little bit more, and then this year I was dreaming a little bit. But I'm completely happy with how this all turned out. Honestly, I was looking at this. It's kind of like you said, I was looking at this tournament and looking at all the hitters in this, and I'm just going, man, if I go 500, I'm happy. And kind of going back and looking at my losses, I got 2 to Alaszun, I got 1 to P Train, and 1 to Frede. I'm good with that. Completely okay with that. Like losing to those guys, I just kind of shrug my shoulders and go, well. And I really I feel like I only got stomped in this last one. And that's because, well, I made a bad decision. Oh, and screw the fire rod in Spike Cave again. That can burn in hell.
I mean, if there is an item that's going to burn in hell, it would be a fire rod.
Saw that, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's so rude.
I threw a bomb at it. I was like, I know I'm in the middle of a race, but screw that chest.
Like, I felt like I routed it in pretty aggressively. Like, I had my fire rod before my boots. Like
you had a lot before your boots.
Sure. But I literally full cleared Ice Palace the first time I found it. If that tells you how late I was to my boots compared to everything else. By the way, great Kane of Samaria spot.
I thought for a second there, I thought, I'm probably not going to watch this back because it will make me sad. But For a second there, I was like, I think I might have a shot. And then it, no, the answer was no. But
So on
GG's,
your
Alaszun, and best of luck for
GG's,
the
man.
rest, dude.
Like, honestly, super awesome showing from you 2 years in a row. Like, you're a really, really good runner. I'm super happy. Like, I'm very happy with my performance as a whole, but like, I'm happy that I was able to beat a runner of your caliber because you're super good.
Thanks,
Speaking
bud.
of trying to beat runners of high calibers, looking forward to wall kicks, Alaszun?
No. I mean, Wallkicks is an awesome guy. Really, really nice. Not really looking forward to that one. He's real good. And I have a pretty bad record against him in general.
Well,
Like,
I hate to break it
think-
to you. Your only way to avoid playing more guys who are pretty good is going to be to lose. So,
Oh, that's a
How it
pretty
goes.
big brain play. But I mean, like, really, it's like, I feel like Wallkicks and I are sort of similar level in general. Except I feel like every time I play him, I lose. And there's a couple of people like that who just, like, for whatever reason, be it luck, be it stylistically, just like seem to nudge me over and over and over. But Wallkicks is super cool. It's always nice to play against people that you like and respect. So I mean, if I get knocked out, I get knocked out. I'm gonna be happy with how I played in this tournament. Like, it felt like this tournament was a murderer's row. And I'm sitting here at 9-1. So
Yeah,
I'm pretty happy overall.
yeah, I would agree. It's always nicer to play people you like and respect, and you feel good about it either way. When you play people you hate, you only feel good about it when you win.
Yes, that's very true. And I don't know if this applies for you as well, but I know if I'm playing against someone I really don't like, I'm sitting there like putting major pressure on myself beforehand because I don't want to give them the satisfaction of winning. So I'm just building it up more and more in my head, and it's almost a self-destructive cycle.
Oh, I'm not that bad, but I am really salty if I lose to one of my least favorite people. But luckily, I don't think we're going to have to be worrying too much about that sort of thing going forward. We'll just have some more exciting, high-stakes, late-round matches, and congrats for winning a bunch. You get to be a part of them.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I'm really excited. GG's Dazed. I'm thanks for a really good series.
GG's, bud. Best of luck.
All right.
don't-
Sounds like that's it.
I didn't know if we were done or not, so I'm like, do I say something? Do I make it awkward?
You can always just say, all right, we're done. All right. That's it. Thank you to everyone for participating, for watching. Fantastic race. Fun to watch. Tomorrow, that's it for tonight on Zelda Speedruns. But tomorrow we got some stuff going on. We got Majora's Mask Randomizer at 4:30 and 8, I think. The earlier one on ZSR2. We got more Crosskeys. Goomba versus Lin at 5 p.m. Eastern Time right here on Zelda Speedruns. And I'll link the schedule in the chat so you can just check out everything yourself. And then I'll just wish you all good night, and I think we'll send us off to, we got a ladder race going on right now. It's coming up to the end, but we can watch the exciting finish. So I'll send you off all over there, and see you next time.